Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well on this fine day. I just wanted to take a few minutes today and just sort of talk about a game that I recently played through. The story, just a casual story playthrough of Celeste. And I just want to take a few minutes to just sort of chat about it a little bit today and maybe answer the question of should you play Celeste in 2025? I think my approach to this is going to be super casual. I'm just going to hop in and just sort of play through the first level a little bit, just to showcase some of the basic mechanics and what Celeste is about. And to sort of see if it's something that you might be interested in or something that I might recommend people try. So, without further ado, let's hop in and talk a little bit about what Celeste is and what it's about. So, Celeste is, at its very core, a puzzle platformer with a very pixel aesthetic. It has a very retro feel. It's very I was gonna say chill, but it's at times not very chill. But it captures a lot of some of the retro gaming vibes that some of us would have grown up playing. It's quite fun. And right off the rip, I gotta tell you, it is challenging. It is a tough game. I've only played through, currently, on this playthrough, only through the A sides of the levels. All the levels throughout the game, you can collect. If you explore enough, you'll find collectibles, and they'll unlock B sides and C sides, which are essentially alternate versions of the levels that typically are considerably harder than just a normal story A-side playthrough. So yeah, there's a lot of replayability, a lot of challenge. Like I said, it is difficult, partially because it doesn't feel like a normal platformer, right? Don't go into this expecting to play a Mario Wonder or Mario World, Super Mario World, right? The levels are challenging, they're designed as such. Sorry, I think the music's a little loud. One second here. The toolkit that Celeste gives you is fairly limited when you just sort of think about it, right? You get a basic jump, which is not like Mario at all, right? You're not floating in the sky, you're not flying around. You've got a basic hop, you get an air dash, one air dash, and you can grab onto walls for a limited amount of time. Eventually, your actions start to take up all your time and you can't hang on anymore. And a wall jump. But with those tools, the developers have come up with some crazy puzzles and movement tech and a lot of different things that you can do with such a limited feeling toolkit. There's no power-ups necessarily like fire flowers or anything like that, right? This is what you have. This is your toolkit. And it's sort of up to you to figure out what to do with each one. The controls I found to be quite tight. I have read that some people don't like the controls, and I will admit that it does take some getting used to it to a certain extent. But they're very tight, right? If I jump forward and hold forward the whole time, it looks like a normal arc, which is great. But the second I let go of the stick, you drop down. Like, there's no momentum carry. Like, you stop dead instantly. And that's kind of important because of the amount of almost pixel perfect jumps that you gotta make. Like, you need to know where you're gonna land and like how much control you have over each movement you make. And I think they did that really, really well. The control in this game is not something I have any issues with. I think it's really good, and anytime I've died, I've kind of, like, it's easy to understand that it was my fault. Like, I miscalculated where I was landing. It's unlike, like, again, I'm gonna sort of refer to other platformers in the genre, like Mario, where sometimes Mario feels like he's on skates, and he'll slide around, and the control is designed to be that way, a little more floaty, right? Whereas that is not the design philosophy in this. It's very tight. It's very intuitive to control, I find. The puzzles that they come up with are spectacular. Like, sometimes you look at a screen and you're like, okay, like, just how is this even possible, right? But the fun thing in the discovery of this is, as you play through, is you kind of figure out how you like to play in some ways, and you can solve screens in different ways. It doesn't always have to be the way that the developer necessarily intended, right? Because, like, even in the pathing in this, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try it anyway. But, like, even the pathing in this screen, it makes sense that that is the route that you're supposed to take, right? But no one's saying you can't, like, climb over here and then dash up and then go that way, if that's the way that your brain sort of figured it out. And obviously this is like a super basic first level screen, but like as you go forward in the game, the screens obviously get longer, more complicated, with more like tools for you to use to get through it all. But you start to figure out that, like, oh, there are other ways for me to do this screen. Near the end of the game, there are screens that I spent 20 minutes on trying to figure out, and then I eventually, like, figured my way through that screen, right? But then, like, I've watched videos after that showed the same screen, and it's not how some people have completed the screen. And it's really interesting to me that, like, there are multiple ways, and it sort of allows you to be creative with how you play, which I very much appreciate. Now, Celeste is the name of the mountain, and the name of the character that you play as is Madeline. She is climbing the mountain to prove to herself that she can do it. There's no saving the world motive. There's nothing bigger than that, right? But from a story perspective, I think they did it really, really well. The overarching themes and the story revolves around Madeline and her discovering sort of her self-worth, learning to understand herself a little bit better as a character who is struggling with depression and anxiety and mental health issues. I think they did the story justice, and they made you sort of feel for her and, like, sort of approach those issues with a really tasteful approach, right? Like, it's just a well-written story piece, and I'm trying to speak carefully so as to not necessarily spoil any story beats, any reveals that come along the way, right? But at its very core, the game is about Madeline figuring out more about herself and sort of understanding that in order to complete her desire to climb this mountain, she sort of needs to be whole, and she needs to fully sort of become comfortable with herself and accept herself the way that she is, all the parts of her, right? Like whether the parts she likes and the parts she doesn't like about herself. And it's sort of that sense of self-discovery that's really interesting as far as like how that applies to you and me, and sort of the ways that we try to leave certain parts of ourselves behind and sort of not be content with like who we are. And I think there are parts of it that also like spoke to me, as far as like there are parts of Madeline that exist, and despite her not liking it, those parts exist for a reason, right? Like whether it was parts of her that were there to sort of protect herself, and understanding that those reasons exist and can have some merit was an interesting narrative, I think, and an interesting way to present her character and her character's development, right? So from a story perspective, I really do think that it was a meaningful, thoughtful approach, and I think it is well worth people's time to sort of discover. Again, I'm trying to speak fairly, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to speak fairly like incognito about it so that it's not spoiled for you. But there's a lot that goes on in the story that is really heartfelt and neat to discover. I also wanted to talk a little bit about like the art style. I know it's not for everyone. I know in a age where graphical fidelity and realistic, lifelike animations are sort of on the forefront of everybody's understanding of a good game, it doesn't really hit those check boxes, right? But the fact that they went with this approach is really cool to me. Like I enjoy the pixel graphics. I also think, especially in the later stages, they do a lot with it, and it's really cool. The colors that they use, the environmental like animations and obstacles and stuff that they use was really neat to sort of experience. And it's not just this like basic blue. Oop, that's not where you go. Basic blue and mechanical cityscape that you see the whole time, right? Like they're using a lot of like pinks and purples and blues and oranges. It's really, really a wonder to see what like the developers did with this art style and how they were able to sort of use it as a strength. Yeah, I very much appreciated it. No, didn't want to do that. So one of the things that happens in the game too is momentum. Momentum is your friend in this game. Obviously, I can't jump that high, right? But this thing launches you up, and if you can time your jump appropriately, that momentum carries forward. And there's so much tech that I've sort of been reading about in this game that people have used because of that momentum-based system. And I think it's just really cool how they did that. I meant to say this like right off the rip and right at the beginning, but like, do I recommend people play Celeste in 2025? 100%. Like, I feel like it is a game that checks off a lot of boxes, and I think most people could enjoy this game and hopefully find like a similar amount of value in it. It is so good. And yeah, it's super good. It's super fun. It is difficult, right? Like I said earlier, there are screens that I spent upwards of half an hour trying to figure out, trying to navigate, and that's just the A sides. That's the most basic of levels, right? But there is a sense of satisfaction that I got when completing those screens, that in a lot of ways felt like it mirrored and not just mirrored, but also like gave insight to like Madeline's struggle with these challenges as well, right? She is struggling to figure this stuff out and gaining a similar sense of like accomplishment for when you figure it out. I didn't see the springboard there. For when you figure it out. And I think that's just really cool. It's neat how that experience is mirrored by Madeline with you, the player. But yeah, there are times you will get frustrated playing this game. If you're cracked, you'll get through the A sides no problem. If you're more like me, the A sides will give you grief, and the B and C sides will make you want to cry a little bit. But it's fun. It really is. It is well worth your time. Like, the initial playthrough for the basic stuff took me about 8 hours casually playing through it. And obviously with like double the content still behind the B sides and C sides and DLC and stuff, there's way more game to be played there. But I do think it would be worthwhile for anybody to explore this game. It's funny the sense of like exploration that I got from this game, despite it being like just a 2D platformer, right? Like, there are breakable rocks, there are strawberries to collect, there are cassettes and secrets to find. Like, there's a lot hidden in this game that is very conducive to multiple playthroughs. And I think I don't necessarily like to use this word very often because, especially in the gaming landscape now, it is very, often overused, I think. But I really do feel like Celeste is a masterpiece. I think, like Celeste is a complete package. It tells a really good narrative. The gameplay is addictive and fun, and your thumbs will be sore from trying to navigate your way through some of these screens. But despite the frustration that will come with it, like, I find that there's just so much to love about this game. And I forget how to do this part. Why? Oh, there. And I think it is well worth everybody's time. Give it a shot. Let me know what you guys think about the game, if you've played it, if you've tried it out, or if you're wanting to try it now that you've seen it on the channel here. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what types of gamers would have enjoyed this game, and what value that people might find in it. Well worth your time. I could keep talking forever about Celeste. It's just such a neat and fun experience that everyone should give a shot. So, with all of that said, I thank you guys for hanging out and checking out the video. And I hope to do more of this type of just off the cuff, a little bit of gameplay, a little bit of like review-ish, talking about certain video games that I've played throughout the year. And yeah, tell me what you guys think. Tell me if you're a fan of Celeste, if it wasn't for you, if you found the difficulty too much, if you liked or didn't like the aesthetic. I'd be interested to hear what other people thought about it. But for me, 10 out of 10 would recommend you play. Till next time, I will catch you guys soon. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.